And we are rolling. You timing?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Hagop Nazarian, and today I'll be speaking about I'll be speaking about a major issue that's affecting the state of California, which is the continuous flow of companies leaving for other states and even other countries. This is a major issue that it's important to all of us because the jobs are leaving, and I think everybody should be passionate about it. All of us here saw how engaged and how emotional students were about the tuition hikes in the UC system recently, but I think we should also be concerned about issues such as this one, because what good is our education if there's no jobs in the state that we're residing in? I think there's three major issues in the state of California that we need to look at and really work on so we could prevent these companies from leaving. Taxes are too high and we don't have enough incentives. The process for permitting and getting permits for new businesses is very tough, and also the wage and labor laws in California are very strict and probably the toughest in the country, and they're not appealing to employers at all. And I believe that if California doesn't do something about this soon, it's going to continue losing businesses, and it's going to be a major issue for everybody in the state that has a larger economy than other than maybe 20 countries in the world. So the first issue that I want to talk about is the high tax rates. The movie industry, everybody knows, started in Hollywood, California, and the surprising thing now is the movie industry is really not here anymore. And the main issue for that is the tax incentives that California is failing to offer. For example, the state of New York is willing to give up to a $420 million tax credit versus California, which is only giving a $100 million tax credit. That's a big difference. And we're seeing movies that are supposed to be based in Los Angeles being filmed in other states and even other countries. Producers are going to Australia, New York, Texas, anywhere even New Mexico, anywhere that they can find, and shooting other places as Los Angeles. So it's really kind of ironic. And since 2005, 4,500 jobs have left from the movie industry in California, and a lot of that can be equated back to the tax incentives that our state is failing to offer. And these facts were pulled from Variety magazine, which is a major entertainment magazine, in March 2014 article. Permitting is another issue in the state of California. In most states, when a new business is getting ready to get its storefront or get its property together, it takes 30 to 60 days to pull permits. But in the state of California, it takes almost up to a year sometimes to get permits. And this isn't something that's going to help business owners at all. Who would want to rent out or lease out a property and have to pay rent for a year and sit there and have to wait for a year just to get the permits they need to run their business? This is something that's ridiculous in the state of California, and this is something that definitely needs to be reformed if our state is going to be attractive to new businesses. It's even an issue for current businesses, because let's say they want to move from one location to the other, it's going to be a big issue for them, and it's crippling for many small businesses. The third and I think the biggest issue in California are the wage and labor laws. The wage and labor laws in California are very, very tough, and some of the issues with the wage and labor laws is the difference between classifying if somebody is an employee or a contractor, which makes a big difference with taxes, and it also makes a difference with how much liability an employer has. And in California, the laws are so tough that employers are constantly having to deal with lawsuits and the state government coming after them and paying hefty fines if they misclassify employees. Overtime laws in California are also very tough, and we're seeing many major corporations move out of our state. One of the most recent moves was by Toyota. They left just a couple years ago, and according to a Yahoo Finance article from July 2014, the Toyota Corporation came out and they said they didn't move because of the taxes or the wage and labor laws, but the truth is they moved to Texas, where the wage and labor laws are much easier to manage, and they're gonna have a much easier time with their employees and hiring independent contractors and dealing with the government in general. So in all, our taxes, our wage and labor laws, and our permitting needs to improve in order for California to stay competitive and retain jobs. I think everybody in this room knows that California is a great state, and California should be able to retain these jobs, but these changes are going to be need to be made if that is going to happen. And the main thing that I want to emphasize is that our legislators and our state government needs to realize that our deficit and education are important things, but they also need to look at how the state is being run and how many businesses are leaving, because it's a very important issue. Thank you.
Time
6:27.
6:27.
My goals were to emphasize my evidence, capture the audience's emotion, and work the entire room.
Right. Okay, we're somewhere over here. Here, yes, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Masood.
Hi, Masood.
I really like that you're on top of your statistics. I didn't know that Hollywood was no longer like the place for media in New York now, or like your statistics just seem really accurate. That was good.
Thank you.
Improvement.
Hi, Mina.
Hi, Mina. You owe Ben big time.
I thought an improvement kind of off of your strength. I think your strength is that you know your information really well. But I think, and that to kind of capture the audience attention a little bit more, if you could embellish, like maybe your intro, make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more personal. I think you went kind of the really straight and narrow path of, I know this information, I'm going to tell it to you, but kind of try to make it a little bit more engaging so that we're like, kind of hook, line, and sinker kind of.
I totally understand. I tried to capture the emotion with the education, which everybody gets into here, but
I think if you did that,
maybe a stronger time.
It would have been like really good. That was good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. Well, let's not use a note card next time. Your introduction was, hello everyone, my name is Hagop, and I will be discussing a major issue in our state today. Company is leaving. That's not an introduction, that's your thesis statement. Introduction is a poem, a quote, a story, a joke, or a rhetorical question. Something that grabs the audience, draws them in, makes them want to listen. Something you can tie back to in the end. So remember, choose one of those 5 options. And if you look at the model that I gave you to work from, or you notice that he had a story that he told, or any of the models online, they all have a great introduction, or the text talks about starting with a story. Just have a better introduction, okay? On your thesis, you said, I want to answer the question, what can be implemented to stop the tide of companies from leaving California? Was that the question? What can we do to stop companies from leaving California?
Yes.
We needed to have that explicit and repeated. You've noticed I've been saying that to everybody, so you need to repeat the question for emphasis, okay? Your significance statement was good. It affects us. It affects the quality of life here in Los Angeles, so that was good. And you tried to strike the educational thing, so that was pretty good. On your first reason, and my big picture criticism of your arguments were that they were a little thin on the evidence. You had just 2 quotes, 2 sources that you used, and you came to quote them at the end of your arguments rather than introduce them at the beginning, so we knew it wasn't just Hagop talking, but you had great authority. You had variety. You had, what else? Yahoo. You know, and you had done your research. It wasn't just you talking, see? So introduce your evidence earlier. On your second reason, there was no evidence of the permitting process that you presented, that this is a problem for the film industry. It was just you asserting it. We need to have evidence for all our major points. On the third point, yes, you had the Yahoo and you quoted Toyota. And I agree with you. They said no, it wasn't because of this and this, but I know it was because California. They didn't want to say it. Yeah, they didn't want to trash it, but yeah, they were sick of California and all the BS that goes on here. Yes, I agree with you, and I think that was a good quote. And there have been a lot of others that have left. You needed to present more of those. They're out there if you had done more research. Your evidence, you had no tie back. Your conclusion was fine. Your summary needed to be more specific to the 3 points you made. Your goal was to emphasize the evidence that you gathered, which were 2 sources, capture audience's emotion, and work the entire room. How'd it go?
I feel like I emphasized the 2 points, but I should have had more evidence. I don't think I captured the emotion too well.
Right.
I was trying to get that with the education, but I should have brought maybe some facts with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I worked the room. I worked around.
Okay, good. You can do better next time with more evidence and more research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what's our time looking like? Yeah, we have time for one more, and then I want to explain the midterm. Volunteer?
Mark it up a little bit. Some notes.
I'll live.
Okay, cool.
Do you want this also to be not shown to the public? You don't care. Do you care?
Not really.
Okay, so the second one will be shown to the public. Okay, we're rolling.
My name is Benjamin.
Hi, Benjamin.
Imagine you're in Beijing. Now imagine that you're a child in Beijing. You're at recess. You're running around having a good time, playing tag, and then BAM! You run into a giant glass wall. And so what do? You say, why is there this giant glass wall here? Except you say it in Chinese because, again, we're in Beijing here. The answer to that question comes from The Guardian in 2014. After China's apocalyptic levels of smog in Beijing, China started to construct giant glass domes for children to play in so that they didn't have to breathe in the smoggy air and hurt their lungs. That is one of the extents to which China is willing to go to not have to change anything about the way that they pollute into the environment. Keep that in mind when we ask ourselves the following question. Do China's recent agreements to cut their carbon emissions make economic sense? And to answer this question, we're going to refer back to that example of the child running around. Obviously, there's 2 takeaways here. First off, cold world. You run into a wall, it's your own fault, look where you're going. But the second one is, as I've stated, there is substantial pollution in these regions, and there is a very significant chance that China will do anything to not have to stop this pollution. However, that's why it's unexpected that the answer to this question, do China's recent agreements to cut carbon emissions make economic sense? The answer is yes. For 3 key reasons about greenhouse gases, about renewable energy, and about political appeasement. However, before we get into that, I'd like to cover the significance of why you should care about this issue. Obviously, even though I told you to imagine it, you are not a child in Beijing, and you might not directly care about this. But the recency and the suddenness of this change should really have you interested in this issue. First off, the recency. China and the United States recently agreed in November 12th, 2014, according to The Guardian, to cut their carbon emissions both significantly. The United States would reduce their emissions by 26 to 28% by 2025, and China would cap their emissions by 2030 and only go down from there on out. So because it's very recent, we should be concerned with it, because we're current events oriented in this communications class. But moreover, we should also be concerned with it because, what the heck? China's been doing this for how long? Being the great Satan in terms of polluting, not caring about the environment, saying no to every time we have a climate summit? Why the big shift? So, to answer that, again, we have three reasons: greenhouse gases, renewable energy, and political appeasement. So let's take those one by one. The first reason is greenhouse gases. So, when we think about greenhouse gases, we don't often think of it in terms that we can comprehend, let alone terms that are economically oriented. So we might think of rising sea levels. We might think of more carbon in the air. Does it smell like carbon in here? Does it smell like methane in here? I hope not. But, moreover, what we should see is that according to a study by Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General, in 2009, the economic damages of global warming are significant, about $125 billion per year. So if we could reduce this and live in a world where we did not have these sorts of economic damages, we'd obviously be in a better place. Everyone wants that. However, one of the major factors that is causing people to not get together and say, why don't we stop doing this, is because there's a sort of tragedy of commons element going on. If someone reduce the amount of pollution they do, that's going to put an economic burden on them. They're going to have to go to more measures to reduce the amount of pollution they emit, and so they would be less economically competitive. That's why these agreements are so critical. When we handcuff China and the United States together, they're both equally less economically competitive. And that's important because if they're both equally less economically competitive, then we have a zero-sum arrangement that's not going to change their overall economies, but is going to improve the environment that we live in. Now this is very critical because it's going to help solve the problem without hurting either one of the economies. But, moreover, we can look to a second issue about renewable energy and why it's not only going to be not neutral for China's economy, but actually beneficial for China's economy to pass this agreement. See, when we think of renewable energy, we tend to think of maybe a wind farm in Texas, or we think of solar panels that are being put up somewhere in America. But what we might not realize is that China is the leading producer of renewable energy. In fact, according to U.S. News on September 18th, 2014, China's solar sector alone accounts for $100 billion of their economy, making it the world's largest. They create 100,000 jobs per year in just the solar sector. So we have to look back and see what is this actually doing for China's economy. And the answer is they're expanding their economy significantly by not only charging themselves to decrease their carbon emissions and increase their renewables, they're having America there as well. And what that means is that by agreeing to this arrangement, they haven't only expanded their own economy, but they've expanded the market that their renewable sector is going to go into. And what this means is there's going to be more economic activity in that sector, and China's going to take that business in the renewable sector and use it to expand its economy. Now that is done through political agreement. And the other thing about political agreement that we need to recognize is that China's been under a lot of fire, not just for this issue of the environment, but also issues relating to trade. And so political appeasement is the third reason why we need to be concerned with this and why it actually makes economic sense for China to cut its carbon emissions. So, for months and months, even up to September before this agreement was signed, 2 months, China was saying no, no way, not going to happen, not willing to play ball with the United States. In fact, even at the UN's climate summit at the United Nations on September 23rd of 2014, President Obama was quoted as saying that we need to put the onus on China to reduce its greenhouse gases. So did this actually happen? Did anything happen because of this? Not directly, but later we got that agreement to be passed. So this is important because the political onus there is going to be shifted. Now China is going to gain political capital and be seen as a nation that's willing to work with other nations. So now, nations like the United States will maybe back off of other issues such as trade dumping or things like that. So what that means is China has actually gained a political leverage which it can use to expand its economy in other sectors when dealing with international issues. So for these three reasons of helping to stop greenhouse gases, which benefits everyone, helping to increase the renewable sector, which helps China substantially, and finally, getting political appeasement, which is going to help China internationally, there are three solid reasons why China actually, it makes economic sense for them to agree with the Americans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So, finally, when it comes all back together, we can understand that hopefully we'll be able to take down the glass bubble between us, between China and America, and between the kid in Beijing and the outside world, and hopefully come to this agreement and realize that it makes a lot of economic sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, for your feedback. We're somewhere over here. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Emma.
Hi, Emma.
I thought you were really well prepared for the speech, and it definitely showed that you knew what you were talking about. And I feel like you did a really good job of keeping some things at a high energy level and bringing it back down to the really important parts were emphasized. So I thought you did a really good job.
Thank you, Emma. Improvement.
Hi, my name is Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
I also felt like you did a really good job as well, but my only complaint was I was just scared when you kept moving forward. I was worried you're going to bump into a chair. That is my only concern.
So he broke into your space, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this quickly because I got to explain the midterm a little bit, Ben. Good job. Your intro of the glass child, that sort of thing, was very vivid. You moved around the room, you acted it out, so you really got our attention. I like that. That was good. You weren't boring up there. So that was good. You tied back to that. Your thesis preview was fine. Your SIG statement was okay. On your, you finally got to the it does make economic sense by repeating it a little later that yes, it does. And I would have liked you to have repeated it a little more during the middle of your speech, and that's why it makes economic sense. On the on the China is the world's largest polluter. What I didn't see in this speech was for the Chinese citizens and the fact, because you started with these children gagging, and I don't know, the pictures out of Beijing and so forth are just, they're awful. And I'm wondering how much pressure is just coming from people and how much the elites care about that pressure. Maybe not.
I didn't think that related directly to the question of economic sense.
Maybe it doesn't, and maybe they are calculating that they can get away with it a little bit longer, and maybe you're right. On the solar, as you know, I have some questions about your greenhouse gases, global warming, and the ice caps melting, but I'm sure the audience loved it. So that was fine. The political statement. The other thing is the Chinese, if you look at it closely, the Chinese didn't give up much, really. They gave up. They said we'll do this, but the pundits that look at this closely said they're really not doing anything they weren't already going to do. But it looked good, and they got political capital, and they got the U.S. off their back, which you pointed out.
And I forgot to.
Yeah. Your tie back to the little child was good. You made it pretty sticky. You did a good job. Thank you. What was the time?
7:32.
7:32. We went over. Okay, where's the... Oh, did I pull them out already? Okay. Here's the exam. Now, those of you... How many have not done their Extemp speech? One person, two people, 3, 4, 5, 6. Boy, you guys are in tough luck. Because this exam calls for you to revise your first Extemp speech based on the criticism you've received. So you'll just have to revise it the best you can based upon what you've learned and you've heard in class from the. Now, does everyone have? Did I give extras out? Yeah. Okay, there's 2 parts to the. People ask me about this, so I'll just be honest about this. There's 2 parts to this exam: comprehension and then theory application. I say explain the principles and provide 2 examples of the following 8 questions. Be certain to explain each concept completely, that's 1 to 3 paragraphs, and devote a paragraph to each example. And you got to have 2 examples from the book. One from the book or one from your own life. The quiz should be double-spaced, printed single-sided with your last name on each page. You're to cover the concepts of simplicity, unexpectedness, concreteness, credibility, emotional, stories, business, and education. And then, after you've done that, and comes the theory application, you are to revise an Extemp speech which incorporates the stickiness principles elaborated on the 8 questions above. Annotate the revised speech with an explanation of how you are applying the principles. There should be at least 8 annotations. And if you turn the page, does everyone know what an annotation is and what it looks like? It's this guy over here on the left. And what I'm asking you to do is to change what you did. Now, for example, who is the person that had no introduction today? Remind me who that was. Okay, so you would start off by saying, well, gosh, in my speech, they say start off with something unexpected. Well, I had no introduction, but here's an unexpected thing I could have done and said, and you would add that. Then you would add that to your speech, and then you would get unexpected out of the way, and you would put that over there in your little annotation box. How long does it have to be is the common question that people ask. I ask that you be thorough. The common length of an A paper, I'll just be honest with you, is about 20 pages, including the speech annotation. So, choose to do whatever you want. If you can cover it in 5, do that, whatever. I'm just being honest with you. Yes, please.
So you want us to annotate on our outline? Is that what you turned in?
Yes, annotate on your outline like this looks like. It should look like this.
But with our own outline?
With your own outline. This is an outline of a film speech.
Okay.
I don't have an annotation of an Extemp speech. But you would take the Extemp speech that you gave, factor in the feedback that you got, and choose your own criticism of it. Make it more sticky. Does everyone understand the assignment? Make your first Extemp speech more sticky. Any questions?
So, does this everything have to be in that format?
Yes. Why is that a problem? That's Microsoft Word. You not know how to do that? Okay, good. Here, I have here. Good deed. Sam doesn't know how to do that. Straight from so you'll get it on the clue train?
Here, do we go ahead and change it and then explain it?
Change it and then explain the change.
Wait, so for the 8 annotations, do they have to follow these?
Yeah.
And then do we have to do at least one of each, or does
At least
this?
one of each. Yeah.
So we do one of each.
Of these four, your eight annotations.
Yeah.
So your eight annotation, one is on simplicity, one is on unexpectedness.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
So
good
we
exam.
summarize
You'll find
it
it
and then relate
very.
it back
You'll
to
find the exam very useful because you'll find it's a good way to learn self-criticism and make you speaking more effectively.
Right.
So, do we incorporate that's the cheaper one. Professor, that means we incorporate our full speech and write it down. We have to give our full extension.
And then add it.
Oh, okay.
No, so and then you change it. You scratch out what you have to do. And then you're going to take each one.
So in other words, this would be like a third of the page over here. This will be a third, and this would be a third.
Do you have her phone number?
Yeah, you're all mom.
You have her name. Really? What?
Yeah, my one of them was going to fall. No, I got there early and then like, how to do now? Like last year, I remember playing dancing at my
This should be like
The way it should work is explaining the concept about
I didn't get home at that time because I had to like eat like
separate paragraphs.
so I got like home at like 4
Concept like
and then like in like
a better paragraph. So we're going to continue with the dude. He's trying to be about 5 minutes paragraph.
next time, you know, when you guys I would have a tournament to like do. Yeah, because like I had to do that.
If I speak to you after now, about the class for Thursday? No, you're not. Okay.
No, are you in the Thursday class too?
Yeah, I
What a
just want to
wise
ask you a quick
decision.
question.
Were you the one that wanted to meet me at 4 o'clock for office hours?
I just had a quick question now. Okay. I'm arguing for the negative side for the policy brief, and I didn't see an example for the negative one online, but I wanted to check. I wanted to check to see because the topic is that the United States should not incarcerate so many people, and what I want to argue isn't that they should incarcerate more people, but that like they should incarcerate the same amount, but keep them incarcerated for less time. Is that okay as a solution? Because I feel like I'm picking on the word incarcerate in my brief. I've done a lot of work on it already, but I define incarcerate as into like the actual verb of locking the person up, and then differentiate between that and like keep the person doing it.
Okay, now as long as you're going to be more like pro-safety and pro-safety for the public, the result's going to be the public is going to be more safe.
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's going to be your solvency.
Okay, I just don't know if I was supposed to argue that we should lock up more.
You don't necessarily have to lock up more, but keep them locked up or build more prisons to accommodate the ones we are putting away. Build private prisons. A lot of people build private prisons as their solution.
What I've written is that we should lock them up, but keep them locked up for a shorter time.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So you're using the professor, what's his name, from the poli-sci department's approach.
Yeah, I was arguing
Short,
that
sweet, and knowable,
incarcerate the same amount, but incarcerate them for less time.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
That's fine, as long as you can prove that will work.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a class?
I don't think so. These are all still different.
I still have a question. So when I went, it was the first day, and I went at the tail end of it where the class was getting out. So the biggest, I think, criticism you gave me was just the site clutter. But do you know if there was anything else?
Side letter?
Just cite, like, my citations. Did my switch to make those more like clear?
Yeah.
But do you remember anything else? I just wanted to make sure.
I didn't know.
You did a really good job.
It is, but just from you, like there wasn't very much feedback, just because we were really
Oh, I see. No, I'd have to look at
Is it possible to also find out the grade for
Oh, we got some extra.
Yeah, that was all bad.
Oh, the midterm?
But now that we got more time.
Hey, don't look at anybody else's grade. What's your last name?
C-H-O-E.
What?
C-H-O-E.
Sammy, that sounds
H-O-E. Okay, right here. There's your grade.
Okay.
Oh, Sammy, that is how you call it, Sammy.
Don't beat too hard.
Hey, Steven, are we allowed to get our outlines back with the marks from you for our midterm?
I never return them. But if you email me, I'll tell you your grade, or you can look.
I'll just email you then.
Okay.
I'm just gonna look at my grade, or I can email you.
What's your last name?
Ray, R-A-Y.
Ray. Caitlin McKenzie Ray, right there.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm the mock trialer. I use a lot of the cross-examination tactics.
Oh, good.
I did very well. I just wanted to let you know that.
Oh, good.
I wanted to thank
Great,
you.
thank you. You're welcome.
I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, great.
Professor, is it possible to ask you the grading that's gone just now?
You just got? Yeah, sure. What's your last name?
Billy Moria.
What?
Billy Moria. Sam Billy Moria.
Yeah, Bill Moria. Okay, there's your grade. There's your grade. Wrong level, wrong row.
I think last time also you couldn't find me. How are you? How am I entered in your register, Professor?
Because I brought the Thursday.
Still recording, by the way.
Is it Billy Moria? Is it?
I brought the Thursday. I brought the Thursday roll sheet class. That's why you weren't there.
Oh.
So you're there now.
Can I pick a new Extemp topic now?